distinguished panelists, all very high-profile industry experts, and thank you to all of you coming down to our office, Conexus Studio. So we're a very young, aspiring company specialized in workplace design. So we design and build anything that is related to office spaces, and anything that is related to work life of our corporate clients is kind of important to us. Especially sustainability, which is these days more than just a certificate, but really the value that is built into business requirements of every businesses around the world and across all sectors and industries. After the event, and whenever you have time to mingle around, I would love to welcome you all to go around, meet my colleagues, see our office. This is a showroom, this is a sample of what we do. And we also like to learn from you, from your experience in what you are doing, and increase our knowledge of how employees and corporates actually reshaping the needs of the workplace. I don't want to take your time, but there's more interesting topic to be presented to you and the QA session. So back to you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Annexion is the event host for this event. So a bit more about Annexion. We are a global headhunting and HR consultancy firm, and we specialize in the built environment sector. Basically, we do two things. We hire great talents for you, and we retain great talents for you. So we cover 6 different pillars: the property real estate pillar, construction engineering space, interior design architecture space, building construction and construction engineering space, interior design architecture, digital infrastructure, as well as the prop tech and construction tech space. So our goal here is to power possibilities with our stakeholders. They could be our candidates, our hiring partners, and one of our vision here is to really be the interlocutor of knowledge base in the built environment sector. We want to build a community of like-minded partners, and therefore every quarter we come together, we create this event for all of you to take part, learn something new and updated in the industry, and in the process network, get to know like-minded people and do business together. Right. So with that, we have today also our sponsor, our event sponsor, Raymond.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. So a very quick and short segment about you before we go to the intriguing conversation that we're going to have today. So very quickly, uHoo, we are part of the built environment sector, and we provide and develop our own indoor air quality monitors. As you will see here, this is how it looks like. And besides that, we also build our own platforms. That means we can integrate into building systems as well. And we have the whole ecosystem already ready to go. What we do basically to help our clients, we help them to promote health and productivity in their workspace environment. We help them to attain green mark certification and WELL certifications, LEED certifications as well. So all these things can gain points for them. And as mentioned, we are able to help them to integrate into their building systems and automate their HVAC operations as well. Eventually, that also leads to cost reduction in terms of their energy consumption for their cooling. One of our USPs is just one device like this itself is able to manage and monitor up to 16 parameters, not just air, but also we have sound and we have light. So it's truly all-in-one air and environmental monitoring system. And we also use all this data that we have because our data is sampled minute by minute. So you're going to have a huge chunk of data. We help the end users to contextualize, what all these kind of things mean. So with our own algorithms, we are able to come up with a virus index and a mold index. So this gives the client and the end user an immediate overview about how their environment is tracking. Whether the carbon dioxide is too high or certain humidity is too high as well. And as I mentioned, we build our own platforms for users, day-to-day basis. For building managers, if you have, let's say, 10 buildings or 20 buildings with 1,000 devices on your dashboard, all you need is just internet access, and you can just access it from your laptop or your computer. Very easy. Yes, we can integrate with many different things. All the major VMS systems, from JCI to Honeywell to Schneider to Siemens, and also some other standalone devices in terms of, let's say, lighting even, or even air purifiers. And yes, this device is a Singapore Green Building product accredited, and also our accuracies are also spec to WELL standard. So it will help you along your whole sustainability journey, not just in the Singapore context, but also the global context. As you can see here, these are all the various sustainability standards across the world and in Asia. Some of you, I'm sure, are quite familiar with some of these standards. Also, these are a snapshot of some of our clients that we deal with: GIC, Temasek, Cushman. Thank you so much for your support. And of course, the big developers that you have, like CapitaLand, Hong Kong Land, even Fraser's just up the road here, Alexandra Point. So we have implemented our sensors across that whole building power as well for certification. So yes, just a very short segment. We hope there's opportunity to work with your consultants, FM, and architects as well in this space. So I hope to chat more with you all after this conversation. Thank you.
So with that, without further ado, we have 4 very distinguished speakers here: Feng, TC, Daniel, as well as Chee. So I'll allow them to introduce themselves subsequently. Traditionally, I was always part of the foreign speakers, but this time around, the kicker. Alright, so with that, I'll pass over to our favorite moderator, Chee. Alright.
Afternoon, everybody. Today's panel actually explore a question that is becoming increasingly critical for owners, investors, and operators alike. So this is about how sustainability is no longer just a compliance or ESG issue, but a core driver of real estate value. So today I have 3 panelists that we have invited. Maybe I start from my right hand side, Mr. Tian Chong. So he's a built environment and technology leader with over 40 years of experience spanning construction quality, green building policy. In fact, the Green Mark framework in Singapore is conceived by Mr. Tan while he was the group director in BCA. And he's also involved in digital innovation. So currently he's the managing partner at Aptiv IT Solutions, and also a senior advisor at CNS, so focusing on applying digital data and Gen AI solutions to enhance sustainability and productivity across the built environment value chain. So next we have Feng. So Feng leads the environmental sustainability design consultancy, working very closely with asset managers to develop energy-focused strategies that help assets meet their environmental goals. So he has more than 10 years of experience in the real estate sector across property management, leasing and marketing, and project management, with prior roles at Fraser Property Commercial Management and JLL. So he has a first-class honours in electrical engineering, and he's also a certified energy manager, Green Mark AAP, and lead AP professional. And last we have Daniel Yeung. He's the co-founder and principal of Odyssey Capital at Tigris, with over 20 years of experience in infrastructure, investment banking, and operating companies. So a former investment officer at IFC. So he helped build a USD 1.5 billion investment pipeline in East Asia Pacific. So he also established the office in Singapore, led project financing in India, and secured a 70 million credit line with earlier experience in Credit Suisse, First Boston, and Bankers Trust. Very esteemed panelists. So today we are seeing sustainability influencing asset resilience, operating risk, financial terms, and even exit valuations. So at the same time, data, technology, and capital markets are also reshaping how value is measured and protected. So our discussion today is structured around 4 segments, from redefining value to performance and standards, to financing models, and finally to technology and future proving. So the goal is practical investment-related conversation. Feng, perhaps I should direct the first question to you. So traditional real estate value has been driven by location, yield, tenant demand. From your experience working across the various portfolio in terms of renewable energy, water, and zero capex sustainability projects, so how is sustainability now changing the definition of asset value, particularly in terms of resilience, operating risk, and long-term net operating income, rather than just headline returns?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be invited to this evening's panels because sustainability has found itself to many areas in real estate, and definitely in terms of real asset value, sustainability is actually one of the dimensions that we look at in terms of sustainability. Perhaps there are actually many areas, many research on sustainability impacting real estate value. Some are indirect, some are direct. For example, just now Raymond, uHoo's product in indoor air quality. There's also research in place to see how indoor air quality relates to real estate value. Perhaps let me just concentrate on one easy and direct and relatable impact of idea of sustainability that can impact real estate value, and that is energy efficiency. For energy efficiency, all of us know that it definitely actually reduces the operating expenses and therefore improve the real estate value. Actually, in some of our buildings, you realize that these actually constitute around 50% of the energy consumption. The rest could be maintenance costs, MA costs, and insurance and other expenses. So it's actually a very direct driver of real estate value. In addition to that, it helps to drive value in terms of ensuring the resilience of the building, resilience in terms of helping the asset future-proofing itself from rising energy costs, and especially the carbon tax, which is going to be increased to $50 to $80 per ton in the year 2030. In addition to all this, energy efficiency is also typically a significant component of all green certification, be it LEED, Green Mark, Green Star. And it's also typically a very important component of all ESG targets. It's part of the decarbonization plan. And therefore, if, for example, energy efficiency will help to improve the ESG performance, will help to get better green credentials, and that will help to attract better tenants, for example, MNCs, big companies who require such credentials before they actually lease the building. And therefore, it actually helps to drive real estate value and also help to stay ahead of industry as well as regulatory standards. I give you an example. Green Mark standards, since 30 over years ago until now, the energy performance criteria has always been increasing. There's never once whereby it's going to drop backwards. Everyone knows that. And this year, perhaps there will be even more stringent requirement. So helping us to actually stay ahead of this, we need to continuously improve our energy efficiency. And also in terms of regulatory wise, in Singapore, recently there is a BCA MEI, whereby BCA actually the lower quartile performance, they actually subject them to energy audit, pushing them to actually improve the energy consumption for existing buildings. Yeah. So in summary, sustainability is without doubt helping to drive the real estate value. And there's actually many components that actually help to drive real estate value.
Daniel, maybe I come to you next. So from an investor and a capital allocation standpoint, so I think how would climate risk, such as water stress, energy volatility, regular exposure, how is it being priced in real estate today? And how would investors like yourself distinguish between assets that are genuinely future ready versus those that appear green but maybe carry transition risk?
Okay. Firstly, good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to be here, and I thank the organizers for kind introduction to this exciting event. I would say real estate is the topic that brings us all here. There are many different types of real estate: commercial, industrial, residential. I'm going to maybe touch a little bit on these one in as far as your first question, Chee. From an investor's point of view, it's always about risk-adjusted returns. The capital you're deploying it, and what sort of return can you make? But it's going to be risk-adjusted. So I'm going to give some examples of some of the investment work we've done in these three segments: commercial, industrial, and residential. So let's start with commercial. Hotels, five-star hotel, Capella, which many people reckon is, maybe one of the top hotels in Singapore. So in assessing kind of investment return, how value can be created by investing in sustainability. For a hotel like that, they can broadly think of kind of two parameters to evaluate the returns. One would be financial, one would be non-financial. So let's take a concrete example. Installing rooftop panels at the Capella Hotel, where you're generating solar from the sun. The idea is it's financially driven as a kind of return parameter, because you're then lowering your cost of electricity, given the cost of solar technology today, which is a lot cheaper than it was when I first started looking at solar 25 years ago. It was basically not economic. The cost of generating solar was maybe 5 to 10 times that of grid electricity. So property owners would look at solar really as a novelty, but fast forward 25 years, for a commercial property player like Capella, it's economically driven, and that goes down into the cash flow. So some of you maybe in the investment sector, discounted free cash flow for a Capella where you're saving money enhances valuation. Yeah. Then there are non-financial parameters for a property like the Capella. Having rooftop solar allows them to brand themselves as a sustainability-focused hotel, which is important for most of the guests who are considering staying at the Capella. That's one. Now, in terms of industrial, so we've done some work, for example, for factory owners in India. In India, let's say a metal processing client of ours were confronted with regulations which require them to have zero liquid discharge, essentially not allowed to produce and discharge industrial effluent to the ecosystem. So that one is purely regulatory driven. And if they don't invest in sustainability, wastewater treatment and recycling, so they can meet the zero liquid discharge standard, they lose their business license. Well, they get fined first, and then if they don't kind of then adhere to the regulations, they lose their business license. So that's very significant. That's regulatory driven. Yeah. And then thirdly, residential. So we've done projects in Singapore for condominiums, and that again is primarily financial driven, because it's cost savings, for example, installing rooftop solar or rainwater harvesting. So in these cases, I think the angle that we've had clients look at sustainability, value creation is really, depending on the sector and depending on the risk-adjusted returns that can be generated from investing in sustainability. But in some cases, it's also regulatory driven, and in other cases, it's a mixture of these factors. Your second question, Chee, on the future proofing.
Yep.
Versus those that just kind of pretend, right?
Yeah.
Because sustainability, you've also got players that want to dress up things without actually wanting to be a serious player. And sometimes, you've got an industry that's revolved around green mark and other certification. So people just dress it up in order to meet certain criteria. As investors, I think generally one can see through that by looking at the intent of the developer, and also importantly, what's motivating that developer. If it's just dressing it up to get some green mark, you can kind of see through that. But if it's taking on technologies where actually it improves on the free cash flow of that property, that they're actually kind of serious. And with a commercial kind of angle to it, then you can assess the technologies that they're implementing on their property. Future proofing, obviously, very quickly, you can't predict all the technologies that, will come in the next 10, 20 years. As I said, I first got exposure to rooftop panels 25 years ago. when it wasn't really a commercial thing, it was just more like a novelty. So if today you say, hey, if a building is future-proof, very hard to say, because who knows what the technology will be in 5 years, 10 years' time. But if the intent of the building is to improve and generate good cash flow from these technologies, I mean, that generally for investors is a big ticket box.
Yeah, I'm definitely agreeable with the zero liquid discharge, whereby if sustainability is very strongly grounded in the fundamentals. For example, like in some parts of Indonesia or in India, whereby it's a water scarce region, zero liquid discharge will actually make the factory more resilient, in the sense that they could actually reprocess their wastewater into something that they can reuse as an input to their factory. So this has actually benefited a lot of factories in water scarce region, especially in India. Today, many of the Indian manufacturing plants have at least moved towards minimal liquid discharge, if not zero liquid discharge. And of course, sustainability, if let's say it's done well, will actually have a premium in terms of rental. So studies have shown that if the building is green, is sustainable, is operating efficiently, the net property incomes is actually optimized, you get better valuation, and you also attract better tenants. And during COVID, it was shown that those green buildings, which generally have better tenants who are more disciplined, actually have very few that fall back on their rent. So which means that as a landlord, you are assured that your tenants can pay you on a monthly basis. So I think that's something that we can take away from being well grounded in what you choose to be, how you choose to be sustainable. But all this needs a lot of data. So maybe Tian Chong, come to you as, I think sustainability today has become very data driven. So we really depend on verifiable performance data such as energy, cooling efficiency, system reliability in protecting real estate value. So do you see in the future whereby real estate valuation increasingly depends on real-time performance data rather than static certifications?
So I think traditionally valuation depend a lot on certification. But then actually this is maybe 20 years ago when we first started certification. So a lot of organization actually look at the certification. But really, how do you trust each of these certificates? For instance, in Singapore, the Green Mark certificate is actually part of the building control legislation. Okay, so that says a lot about how much you can trust. In many countries in this region or in the US, the certification is actually carried out by NGOs. Okay, and depending on the country, many of them will outsource to consultants. And in fact, maybe this is not so well. There are a lot of controversies about the consistencies. And then you get a situation when one consultant actually assess the design of another consultant. and there were quarrels over, how come you didn't give me credit, for this particular feature. So, but anyway, that's over. But with technology and with sustainability project depending more and more on data, I think the days of depending on certification is over. You still look at a certificate, but you're not going to rely on that certification to determine the value. So what people are now really, and it's already happening, it's not in the future, it's really going for performance data that can be verified, that is live, can be audited, and actionable. So this is made possible by technology like digital twins, IoT platform, and then increasingly AI, where you can get very reliable data, which can also be audited. And this is very important as more and more go for green funding. The funders will not, evaluate just on the basis of, we got a green mark platinum, super low energy, and they want to know how reliable is this performance. So they will be looking at the data. So if you have a project that comes together with a digital twin system that enable the owners and the developers to really track performance on a daily basis, So you probably will be able to get funding, for sustainable projects a lot easier than others. In fact, some 12, 13 years ago, the BCA and the DBS Bank actually came out with what you call the BREF scheme, Building Retrofitting for Energy Efficiency Funds, to help finance central aircon retrofits. Actually, there were very few takers, and the interest rate charged by DBS Bank was very high.
How high?
It's higher than market rate. So the problem was that the bank was not familiar with this retrofitting technology. There were not sufficient information, and the cost of administering is very high because every month they have to find out how much energy is saved, and these are done manually. So despite the fact that the BCA actually undertook 50% of the risk for any default, and then later, in fact, we even gone up to 80%. The bank still refused to lower the interest rate. So you can see how important the being able to get live real data, and this can be automated and audited. That's very important if you want to seek green loans or funding. Yeah.
I guess what you are emphasizing is that with real-time data that are transparent, gives a very good line of sight to all the stakeholders. So whether you are the engineer, you are the CEO, you are the chief sustainability officer or the technician, you all see the same performance indices. And if it's doing well, you want to do more. If it's not doing well, you have to find ways to understand what's the root cause and then try to do rectification. So I think that enable the various stakeholders to proactively look at how we can enhance and optimize the asset value.
I think this is the only way all this green funding and green loans will be given out.
Right.
Because it's not just depending on statistics, but they want to look at the actual performance of the project that they are funding.
Yeah. So Daniel, I'll come to you next, because you put your money in the project for the next 15, 20 years. Okay, so how would this transparency, real-time sustainability performance maybe command lower risk premiums, better financing terms, or even stronger asset valuations? Just now, Chong mentioned that DBS, when they didn't understand, they charge an interest because of the risk. But perhaps today, with the amount of information, data, and knowledge that you have, you are able to address some of the risks. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Oh, sure. Data gathering and monitoring is very important, in the context of investments. Sometimes it's easy to get a little overwhelmed or intimidated by people who go on and on about data, AI, and all that kind of stuff. But I think there is a spectrum of data measurement and monitoring, from simple to more complex. I'll give concrete examples, and I'm going to use rooftop solar because it's a good investment sector for us. Yeah. Now, today with solar panels that generate electricity from sun rays, you've got a critical part of the thing called an inverter. An inverter, whether you buy it from any of these vendors, today can measure how much solar is produced. So you don't have to try to understand the software or the technique of measuring. It just comes part of that inverter. And, you know, once the contractor builds it, there as an investor, developer, you have that data on a real-time basis. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a sunny day, Monday, you can see how much kilowatt hour has been generated. Today, if it's a bit cloudy, it's less. So you have that. So don't get intimidated by data measurement and analytics. A lot of it is quite straightforward, but it is important because with a solar investment, there are two things. One, I make money from selling solar electrons. So I've got to be able to measure how much my system is generating, you know? So with inverters, it's fairly straightforward. The second way I also make money from investing in solar is selling renewable energy certificates, either directly to a corporate that wants to buy these carbon credit in a sense, you know, or the intermediaries. And for these people, again, you need to show them the data from the inverter, you know. So having the data is very important now. That's simple, straightforward, easy to understand technology that provides the data. Now, in solar, you have other funkier types of use of data and IoT and AI. I'll give one example. In India, if you invest in, you know, in a solar project in Rajasthan, where it's very dusty, you know, it's very dirty. So there, the types of data generation is actually smart monitoring, which then sends the data to the cloud. There is cloud analytics. So what happens is the following. If all this data is gathered and you get some whiz kit to build the software and it's sent to the cloud, they can then analyze on a particular day if the amount of dust has gathered. And with that IoT, they then instruct the intelligent water sprinkler system to then spray the water on specific panels to clean it from dirt. You know, or in some cases, I had this Indian guy show me the technology where if you've got a flock of birds, and you know what birds do, they crap on the panels, right? Now, most developers of solar panels, they have regular washing schedules, which are very manual. Let's say, you know, once a month on a Monday, first Monday, the guy goes and throws a bucket of water. But if, let's say they wash it, but the very next day, the birds come and they do what they do, then that bird crap solidifies. And if the manual washing doesn't occur for another 30 days, that can bring down your solar significantly and hurt your ability, for example, to generate revenue and service the debt. If you borrowed money and you haven't monitored it, then you're in trouble. So with smart AI, you know, then they detect it and the sprinkler would then spray and wash away the bird crap so that you can enhance. So this is more complex, but the essential point is data monitoring performance is important, but there are different types, basic to more complex.
I'm sure one of your investments has gone wrong or not doing too well. So maybe you can share some of these experiences that he has not done according to your financial model. It could be a technical issues. So how did you realize that and how did you resolve this with your stakeholders?
Oh boy, I could
put you in the spot.
I could be here all night doing this. But I'll touch on the data monitoring and how it can, you know, allow you to see if a asset is underperforming. So let's say when you first put up, and I'm going to use solar panel again, because as we talk later, future-proofing solar panels is, look, for many of you guys who are asset owners, it's one of the lowest hanging fruit. But there are mistakes, and we make mistakes. So for example, when we invest in solar panels, we forgot to factor in how quickly the trees are going to grow. When trees grow, you have shading. When you have shading, you're blocking the sunlight. When you're blocking the sunlight, instead of generating solar from 4 hours, 10 to 2, you're losing that revenue source. And if you're losing revenue source, you're not able to finance or you know, meet the debt obligations of OCBC, who might have given you a green loan, or DBS who's given you a green loan, so you're in trouble. So we've had assets that we built it anticipating it's going to generate a certain amount of expected solar, but then the trees grew a lot faster. In Dempsey, we did a project for Busy Bees, which is the kindergarten school. Maybe some of your kids are sent there. Very expensive school. But it's green, and the trees, my goodness, they grew much faster than we anticipated. So as a result of the data that we got from the inverters, we realized that our solar is underperforming our projected efficiency rates. And therefore, we then had to, install additional technologies, optimizers, which can then help address the impact of shading and therefore increase the revenues. If you guys are interested in how optimizers work, I can, 10 seconds, I can explain it. Real easy version. Remember your old physics or science days, how electrons flow? Two ways. One is in series and one is in parallel. Yeah, high school science. Anyone? Yeah. So, for example, if you string 10 panels in series and one panel is suffering from the shade because that tree next to the building has grown a lot, that one underperforming panel is going to bring down all 10 because of the way the stringing happens in series. So an optimizer, which is not new technology, it exists, it turns the flow of electrons into parallel. So if one panel is down or underperforming because of that shade that you didn't anticipate, the other 9 can still generate as you had predicted. And therefore, the bank, when he's seeing your P&L, he's happy because you're able to service his or her debt better. So use of technology, monitoring, measurements, etc., can allow you to then show to a banker that you're on top of your game, and therefore, instead of charging you 8% interest, you can maybe get it at 5.25%.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Maybe Feng Fu, I'll go back to you. You're the chief CSO for ESR. So I think you have a lot of operational performance matrices. You have a lot of data available to you. So which would actually carry the most weight with your asset owners and investors when you are thinking long term in terms of the asset quality of the portfolio that you manage?
We have touched on a few points that I think TC and Daniel mentioned. I think nowadays sustainability in every building, it commands more and more data, no matter whether regulatory, no matter asset owner, require more and more data, energy, indoor air quality, and many others. And we're not talking about just data itself, but I think TC mentioned the quality of the data. The solution must self-audit. And also in the industry, in terms of sustainable reporting, there's actually a strong push for external assurance, not just internal audit, but external assurance. So the data quality is there. There's so many data, and the asset owner and the management ourselves, we find that in the day-to-day operation, in most of my conversations with the asset owner, energy is still actually one of the most important metrics that we look at. For the reasons that I mentioned just now, because it helps to improve the asset value by lowering down the MPI, lower down the operating expense and actually improve the MPI. It helps to build long-term asset resilience. So I would say that energy metrics on a day-to-day basis is actually one of the most important data. And that actually helps us to actually look at the asset quality, not just in terms of improving the asset value, but I would think that the asset value will also be dependent on the resilience of the value. We can't be having a very good asset value today, then tomorrow when something happens and for example, a flood, for example, and the asset value actually drops. So the resilience of that, that asset is actually also very important.
Yeah, maybe I stick to you first. So I think what do you see is the biggest gap today that you face as a CSO in terms of technology readiness, data credibility, or even financial structuring? So how would you see these challenges when you start to scale these models across a large real estate portfolio? What do you see is the biggest challenge?
I would say that number one is actually data. A lot of buildings do not have the granularity of data that enables us to actually gather insightful analysis and actually look for ROI hotspots that can help us to find ways that with the least amount of capital to actually improve the ROI. And also to select which particular initiative we could actually look at to improve the asset value moving forward.
Danny or Chong, you want to add on to this?
I think probably one of the biggest problems is that although there are a lot of green funds, I've heard these green fund managers all are complaining that the big problem is they can't find good quality projects. Yeah. So I give you a couple of examples. Okay. Unfortunately, I have to take BCA as an example. So they have this green building innovation cluster where they have subsidized green projects to attain, let's say, platinum. So it was in the last cycle. They put up 2 buildings to challenge the industry. Now, one building was a recently retrofitted project that got a Gold Plus certification. I look at it, I say, my God, how much more improvement do you want to make to a Gold Plus project? To me, it was a non-starter. Yeah. And the other project was actually an institutional building that doesn't consume much energy, because it's not truly air conditioned. Now, why would you pick such projects? There are lots of very badly performing facilities, or a lot of the existing buildings. If you want to look for projects, go and look at the annual BCA Building Energy Benchmarking Report, and look at the bottom 25 percentile. Those are your good quality project from the point of view of the green funders, And then if you want to go deeper, I suggest you look at maybe 3 areas. Okay, these are the assets that are energy guzzlers. First, data centers. I think everybody knows. In fact, during my days, we funded the upgrading of a data center, and we were able to improve the PUE from 2.1 to 1.3. That's a lot of savings, a lot of returns. Okay, data center is one, the old data centers. Another would be hospitals. Hospitals, over the years, different categories of buildings have actually improved in energy efficiency, the hotels, the offices, but the hospitals, they are getting more sophisticated, a lot of equipment, the EUI is climbing, and the EUI, we're not talking about 100 plus, we are talking about 400. So there's a lot of room for improvement. So the other category is hospitals, IHLs, the higher Institute of Higher Learning. Okay, these are the 2 categories of building that bucked the downward trend of energy consumption. Of course, all the latest iconic green buildings coming out from NTU and but look at all their older buildings. Okay, we are talking about 400, kilowatt hour per square meter per year. So these are the kind of facilities where that it's better to put all your efforts to do the decarbonation than look at the iconic buildings that are really gold certified or platinum certified. So this is I think this is one very important point. There are lots of opportunities, but sometimes we are looking in the wrong places. Yeah.
Maybe you can give a commentary on the landscape in Singapore, let's say for NUS, over the last 10 years. I remember 10 years back in NUS, every single building had their own aircon. Okay. But today, or at least 5 years back, NUS has started to have a mini district cooling system. Okay. So that's one form of technology improvement. But do you see additional technology ideas or even a different model of delivery? For example, cooling as a service, leveraging on digital twin. So how do you see our future landscape in addressing the problems in the three asset class: hospitals, data centers, and IHLs?
So I think generally technology is not a problem in all these decarbonizing. In fact, in most so-called digital transformation technology is never the most important. It's maybe the second or the third. You know, the real problem is always the change management. It's always the people, the organization, the processes. These are the things that refuse to change, and you can't bring the technology in because these people refuse to change. And I'm facing a lot of problems. For instance, in this so-called integrated digital delivery, BIM technology, a lot of organization is what I call pretending to implement BIM because it's prescribed by all the public sector agencies for all their projects. Okay, but what I really want to say is that most of the technologies are already there. In fact, in 2018, PCA launched this super low energy, technology roadmap, and it has came up with guidance on what are the key areas that you can look into, and these are mostly focused on cooling systems. In fact, if you have been following, there are, besides the typical chiller system, which is now enhanced by Gen AI, so that they are able to actually self-optimize 24/7, such as the system efficiency is kept well below 0.7 kilowatt per refrigerant ton. In fact, in a lot of cases, it's below 0.6. This means that those buildings with this kind of system are already performing 30 to 40% better than the old, those prior to the Green Mark days where the system efficiency is something like 1.1 or even 1.2. So we are now bringing it down. But on top of that, actually, the roadmap also encourage the industry to look at other innovative solutions. But I won't go into that because there are things like the radiant cooling, you have the hybrid cooling. These are solutions that can actually improve the energy efficiency by 20 to 40%. There's also the passive displacement volume system. NTU actually implemented quite a few of the projects where you actually use very little energy to cool the buildings. You all might be aware that there's a building they call the Dim Sum in NTU. It looks like Dim Sum. So quite a few of these have been implemented. So by and large, the cooling solutions are there. There are 3 or 4 other alternatives that can be used to reduce energy consumption. But still there are ways to improve. And of course, what we can look at is what we have mentioned, digital twin ecosystem that can actually improve further the performance of the building, not only in cooling but in other aspects such as lighting, IHU and so on. And of course, my favorite topic, generative AI. I think this is one technology that is going to impact every business, every sector. And my hope is that once again, the construction of real estate is not left out in all these technology advances. Just now I mentioned, the projects that are funded, using green funds. Yeah, there are quite a lot of available projects in the market.
The AI tsunami is here, and we're not ready. In our work with dozens of executives, we've learned that every single one of them believes that AI is a transformative technology. Yet, most companies are moving as if AI is an incremental technology. The truth is, AI is advancing at an accelerating rate. We are not ready for what is about to hit us. AI is what we call a general purpose technology. Just like steam, just like electricity, just like the internet, these are all things that we've seen. General purpose technologies, it's an economics term, that basically have three properties. The first, they have widespread use cases. Clearly, AI has a lot of use. Any number of use cases that you can think about. The second property is that the technology must improve very rapidly. There's no doubt about that. Clearly, AI improves very, very rapidly. The third is sort of an arcane term called innovational complementarity, and you can forget about that term in exactly 30 seconds. But what it says is, for these technologies to be successful, two things need to happen. One is they don't work by themselves. So you need a lot of surrounding technologies, infrastructure to make this happen. The second is we have to make this technology our own, which means we have to adapt them to our industries, our companies, reinvent processes, invent jobs, upskill our people, redefine tasks. There's a lot of work that we have to do to make sure that this is useful for us and capture strategic value from it.
Yeah, Tejo, I think there's a question that is related to this. Let me paraphrase it. How can AI, artificial intelligence, becomes IA, intelligent assistant, whereby when it's integrated into our current work processes, it actually enhance performance of real estate value. Yeah. So how does AI helps us to become?
This is the AI assistant that we have developed to assist consultants to design data centers.
Save hours and extra work by selecting from preloaded regulatory standards, such as Singapore's Green Mark DC 2024, to ensure full compliance, or upload your own regulatory documents. Akira automatically extracts relevant targets. With the requirements and targets in place, generate the 3D design at the click of a button. Review specifications including cost estimates, rack distribution, cooling loads, flow rates, and precise pipe diameter calculations. Maintain control over your design with ease by adjusting it with natural language. Examine and assemble individual components in each rack with precision. Akira automatically populates the design with the most appropriate components based on market prices and availability through the component catalog, providing highly accurate cost estimates. Export designs, specifications, and quantities effortlessly to share with stakeholders. Akira generates detailed IFC models, complete with relevant attributes, providing the foundation for your digital twins. Enhance your work with a private knowledge base. Layer proprietary data over our public knowledge to address your specific requirements. Add, customize, and orchestrate AI agents to automate complex workflows at scale. Akira's adaptive AI agents learn and improve with every interaction, delivering increasingly precise solutions over time.
So AI becomes your virtual employee.
Assistant. So actually, let me continue a bit on this. Another AI, in fact, we don't use assistant, we call it expert advisor. Is for green building design. Okay, so it's going to be helping all the green mark professional managers, the green mark consultants, to make their job a lot easier. So there is one project. We are actually competing with two other companies for this project to develop the sustainable design smart advisor. This is to work together with the green mark consultants, who over the years have already actually delivered about 1,000 green mark projects. So those project records, information is a gold mine. and to have a very good Gen AI assistant, you actually need proprietary data, your own proprietary work experience put in the model, and this will work together with the LLM where they search the net for information, but it's going to be very, very in the context of the company that owns this proprietary data. So it can be used as a chatbot, but it can be used, you can actually develop agents to help the designer to actually go through the green mark design, all the various aspects. You know, when you, those of you are familiar, you do green mark, you got to go into things like ETTV, RETV, CUI, you know, the greenery ratio, all the simulation of the wind, rain, sun path, you know, lots of things they need to do. And this tool is going to help them, you know, to get all those engineering and complex equation solving done. Yeah. So we hope to get able to get that project, and I think that will be very, very disruptive. Because in fact, when I try to work with a green mark consultant, I say this is going to disrupt your business. You know, so why don't you disrupt yourself rather than get disrupted? Yeah. So I can't wait to see, you know, that solution being. But this is just one of the many assistants you can have. Gen AI is very good when you are in the knowledge business. You are in the consultants business. You know, a lot of engineering knowledge, M&E, architecture, compliances with safety requirements. All this can be put into a model, and you can make it your own model by including your own proprietary knowledge, and it will help all your engineers and architects that work in the company, especially those who are not that experienced. In fact, the studies show that those very experienced, you know, consultant may not find it too as helpful as the young guys, because a lot of the experience are there in the model, and literally at your fingertips.
I guess this will help the consultants a lot in delivering their services. Actually, the next two questions is actually related, but I will start with Daniel first. I think you shared a lot on solar. So what do you think about the hidden costs as well as the redundancy that you would consider in your investments?
Sure. Yeah.
And let me pose the next question to all three of you. So I think there's always a challenge in injecting more capital into a building. So I guess what type of financings today are good for Singapore as a green value add? Is it cooling as a service? Is it zero capex? So maybe we'll start with Daniel answering the solar first, and then we'll talk about the different financial model.
Sure. Yeah, that's a very specific and good question. Solar investments typically are undertaken on the basis of long-term investment horizon, right? You know, a panel can nowadays 25, 30 years still operate well if it's maintained well. So you figure out your return on investment on a long-term horizon. Now the question on are there redundancies or anything like that? I'm guessing maybe the question is asking what if there's a new kind of development of the technology? You know, you're thinking you're investing for 25-year horizon and some new funky solar technology comes. Like what you said, disruption, right? Disruptive technology. From my experience, and I guess I've been looking at solar on and off for 20, 25 years. The basic science behind solar hasn't changed that much. I mean, there are constant improvements at the margin, efficiency, some materials, but fundamentally there hasn't been disruption in solar. It's getting more efficient and stuff like that. So in our investments, we don't worry too much. We don't lose too much sleep. Hey, is there going to be redundancy or some new technology that's going to make all the existing solar investments we've got redundant? We don't think too much. We factor in each year the generation of the panels that we invest in. There is a degradation because the silicon, they do degrade over time, 0.4% per annum up to 0.8% depending on the brand of the panels you buy. So we factor that in. But so we don't worry about that too much in terms of disruption. But one thing that we do factor as an investment company looking at these solar projects is, let's say, if the payback period, depending on the efficiency savings you get, if the payback period is, let's say, 7-8 years, in other words, you've recovered your capital cost. And if the panels are good for another 25 years, you then make a reasonable return on investment. However, with the not disruption in technology, but let's say with increasing efficiency performance of next generation solar, as a firm, what we could do is, let's say we recover capital after 7-8 years, and we've got, let's say, a building that wants to now talk to us, hey, we've got these newer brands of panels that can be 20% more efficient. What we can look at is, as a company, we may have a CSR arm where we renegotiate with the building, hey, we'll take down the older generation panels, reinstall new ones where it could be 20% more efficient, and start the cash flow generation. What do we do with these old panels, which still work, but they're just not as efficient? As a CSR arm, what we can do is then donate that to, let's say, a remote village in Indonesia or Philippines, a school which doesn't have access to electricity. So these are still functional panels. They're just, at that time, they're maybe 30% below market efficiency. But then you're benefiting, let's say, school kids in a remote school in, Mindanao or whatever. So that could be one aspect that, big corporates or investment firms like us can think about in terms of, efficiency and resulting in less optimal financial performance. But in terms of redundancy or disruptive solar technologies, I don't lose too much sleep over that.
You want to talk about your zero capex?
Yeah, sure. Earlier, I think we talked about some of the challenges of sustainability, right? Feng, you talked about data, reliability of data, and then TC, I think you mentioned maybe getting good quality deal flow. It's some challenge for some people. In my opinion, and I think this group here represents maybe a lot of commercial, industrial, or residential kind of properties, whether you're an owner or you're an advisor or you're a solution provider. And if I put myself in the shoes of a property owner, right, I think the biggest challenge is money, because I think the technologies are there. Some are easier to understand. Solar is the easy to understand exhibit. Harder to understand technologies, AI, I think generative AI, that kind of stuff, really harder to understand. But technologies are there. Reliability of data, I agree, sometimes it's a challenge, but it's there. But for a lot of property owners, at least that we come across, it's the money, right, affording it. So there are, in my opinion, two broad parameters, right? One is that you raise your own money, you spend your own money, right, on either technologies, improving data monitoring, etc. And then you got to grapple with ROI, you got to grapple with maybe sometimes management are reluctant to take on sustainability because it's their money and they're all kind of, or if you borrow money from a bank, then you got to repay, right? So money is, I think, in my opinion, a big challenge for preventing more sustainability to be incorporated in buildings, which can enhance value. It's money. So my take on this is that, and my company offers an alternative model to where a building owner has to come up with their own money. So our model is called a zero capex, where we're an investment firm. We've raised money from investors, high net worth or sustainability focused impact investors. So we do that. So the building owner doesn't have to worry about, hey, where do I get the money, right? So as a firm, we provide the capital. We also then take on the responsibility for engaging the contractor to design, to procure the parts, and to install, commission, and furthermore, to run and operate these projects. So ours is a zero capex model, which could be a great alternative to building owners who want to take on more sustainability for value enhancement, but don't want the hassle of having to think about ROI and raising money and such. If I could, can I show some slides?
Yeah, sure.
Some examples of how we have offered different sustainability solutions on a zero capex basis. So our firm, so I'm going to show you these examples. I'm going to give it different types of properties, right? Starting with this one, which is a hotel. In this case, it's about water. It's about decarbonization of plastic pollution. So the technology is a really simple one. It is just on-site water purification of tap water and then having recyclable glass filling machines. Now, this thing means that a hotel such as Meridian or Marriott Hotel can get away from serving single-use plastic water bottles to their guests. In this case, what we then did was we took care of the design of the equipment, of the operations maintenance. So that's one of our employees. And importantly, for the owners of these hotels, they're not paying us any money upfront. Zero capex. What we do is we pay, we design, we run, we operate this plant. We have a 10-year contract with the hotel. And what we do is we turn it, from their perspective, into a monthly invoicing model. And what that monthly invoicing is, it's paying for reusable glass bottle water, and we charge them a rate that's 40% lower than what these guys, and these are Indonesian properties. Previously, they serve, if you're familiar with Indonesia, Aqua is the most common brand of single-use plastic water bottles. So we charge this reusable glass with the Marriott logo on it, 40% lower than what they were using the Aqua plastic. So to the hotel owner, it's a slam dunk. It's an easy sell to his boss, who's the property owner. You save money, you don't spend money upfront, and you are enhancing your sustainability.
So I guess it's beyond just financial. You're actually providing operational assurance that the water is clean, the water is hygienic,
Lab tested, and all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. So there are multiple benefits
There are.
beyond just financial.
Absolutely right. And then operations, this is managing and operating a water purification plant and glass bottling. So the GM, he's a hotelier. He doesn't want the hassle of operating, maintaining this sustainability solution. So we take that off his shoulder. Yeah. So that's a hotel example. This is a industrial property example. It's a factory in India, Hindustan Zinc, which is the largest metal processing company in India. This is the case of zero liquid discharge being applicable to them. But the economics is the following. For a factory like this, they generate a lot of wastewater. 99% of factories, what do they do with that wastewater? They just chuck it. They discharge it. So we come along and we say, don't do that. We put out a purification, treatment, water recycling, well-engineered equipment. And this thing does cost money, a few $100,000. But we do it on the basis, again, zero capex. So Hindustan Zinc doesn't have to spend money. We put this out. And the industrial effluent, instead of chucking it, we sell the recycled good quality water back to them at a discount to what rate they pay the water utility. So again, for the owner, hey, what's there not to like about this sustainability? Zero capex, I don't have to worry about raising money. I don't have to worry about talking to a bank. I'm saving money because I'm recycling water at a rate lower than my water utility rate. And then Hindustan Zinc, in their glossy brochure, they're a listed company, can talk about sustainability as a real demonstrationable kind of business practice they have here.
I guess that your dream is to have every single building in India to have this system, and every hotel in Indonesia to have a bottling system. So as an extension to Feng Fu and Chong, is there one technology, one green solution that you believe that every single building should have?
Maybe I get on to the points we discussed just now. Asset owner from our perspective, asset owners to tell me, I don't spend any money, but I get energy efficiency, better green mark rating, and all sorts of things. And that's one budget barrier. The second thing I think Daniel has mentioned just now, and one of the topics is actually when you calculate your ROI Actually, we all know that there's so many lines in between. If there's one line that's error or there's not enough redundancy, the stress tends that ROI you might not be able to get the benefits that you want or the ROI that you want. So what we do, we actually provide a lot of things in the operational approach. For example, we have a 30-year-old business development. Everything is very old. Need to actually change equipment, for example. But everything needs money. So what we did was actually we went in with our energy as a service kind of model and performance guarantee to overcome the in the event we actually calculate returns wrongly. So what we did, we actually helped them to actually save money first by actually looking at their operation, optimizing their chiller plant, and we actually helped them to save 4 million annually. And from that 4 million, then they actually start replacing the asset. They have so many assets need to be replaced. Leaf, AHUs, switchboard, for example. So we actually use this 4 million savings. So instead of immediately spending money, we go in, help them to save money. Then after that, use this 4 million of savings to actually finance all the rest of the retrofits. And once again, we actually start with AHU replacement, aircon replacement. We dropped up because they actually save money again. So it actually generates the kind of capital for the rest of the equipment. And for that, even though it's actually a 30 years asset, even before we started replacing the equipment, we actually managed to obtain Green Mark Platinum Award, Real Estate Asia Award, Sigma Awards, because of these initiatives that we have mentioned. Another example, when Green Mark 2021 actually first came out in 2002, PCA selected one of our buildings as a case study because we went in, again without a single dollar of capex, we helped them to optimize the energy consumption from like 0.9 kilowatt per ton to 0.8 kilowatt per ton without any single capex. Our KPI was actually from Gold upgrade to Gold Plus, but we actually upgrade to Platinum without a single dollar of capex. And that's why actually BCA invited us to actually use that as a case study when this 2021 came out. Everyone was saying that I will face a downgrade. But in fact, we actually bucked the trend. We actually use the asset, optimize it, and actually upgrade it even further. So there's actually a lot of things that can be using the operational approach. In fact, one of our assets we are looking at, a retail mall, is actually engaging us. We actually go in, help them to optimize their energy consumption without spending any capex, and whatever amount they actually save in terms of energy bill, we actually take a cut out of it. Again, purely using technical expertise and not actually any capex.
Yeah, so you're saying that the green potential of a building could be here and then your current performance is here. So I think we need to realize the true potential of a building through data analytics, through engineering approach. And I guess many buildings are missing out on the value add that we could, based on data, to make better decisions.
No, I think this goes back to, this concept of anything as a service, cooling as a service, lighting as a service. Basically, the solution provider does almost everything. They design, they install, they buy the equipment, make sure it operates. And that comes to another point. You don't have to worry about services. Let solution provider. There's a new technology, it would be to its benefit if it brings it into, let's say 10 years down the line, in order to do the contract requirements. A lot of these contracts are quite long, 10, 15 years. The owner can focus on his core business. Why do you want to go and buy a big chiller and then worse still, have a maintenance team, to look after that system? It's very difficult to get the technicians to do this sort. Leave it to the solution provider. Yeah.